Yes.
Okay, Professor Sabai, you can take over now, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I would request everyone to,
Thank you.
to please mute your mics so that we continue smoothly. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so now, yes. I hope it's visible now. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks for yesterday company, and I hope we will have a good session today as well. The second day of learning statistical analysis using SPSS, a beginner approach. So let me start from where we left yesterday. So summary of first session. Edmund, if you can please mute the mics of the participant, that would be helpful. So
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
okay, thank you. So summary of first session. Uh, if you recall, yesterday we talked about statistics. We get kind of a brief introduction of statistics as a subject, the meaning of statistics, how statistics is applied, how it is important for different other disciplines, and then we talk about the types of variable. Mainly, I told you that there are variables are broadly divided into two categories: the quantitative and qualitative variables. Then quantitative variables are further divided into discrete and continuous variables. So we more or less did this basic discussion. We talked about the data. We talked about then I did discuss the framework of the research, that how research framework works, and then I tell you that how statistic is useful, and then I show you boxes where the role of software works. Any statistical analysis capable software, if you use, where it fit in. So I hope you have that background in your mind, so that today we continue, you should keep that background in mind. We also get introduced to SPSS yesterday. I give you a brief introduction, just initial introduction about SPSS, and I requested you to please download the trial version of that as well. I hope some of you were successful of getting the software or may have already got it. So today I'm going to talk about descriptive analysis and a bit introduction to regression analysis and hypothesis testing. But again, I would add this point that this is a very fundamental discussion. It's preliminary discussion. My assumption is that you don't have the statistics or statistics background, or you haven't used SPSS ever. So it's like very beginner approach. So I will start today with a theory, a little bit theory, just a few slides, and then I will switch to SPSS for longer period. So there is something which we call measurement scales. Now, measurement scales is a kind of approach through which we measure different variables, or it's a kind of like when you observe something, you assign some number, some units to it. So it's a scaling process of observation. So measurement scales are important to know, because if you don't know measurement scale, you can't properly use the variables in your analysis. So we need to get familiarized with measurement scale. There are four measurement scale. So it's like whenever you have certain observation from any kind of data, it can be measured through four ways, one of the four ways. So it's like four measurement scales. I have it here on another slide. So measurement scales are of four types: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. So these are the four measurement scale through which we measure variables, or through which we collect data. Now I'm going to explain these four scale, and you as a beginner need to learn these measurement scale, because otherwise you would not be able to you will not be able to measure variables properly, or using the variables properly in your analysis. So let me start with the nominal scale first. Nominal scale is the basic level of scale in this scale, we only classify or group the observation into mutual exclusive categories or classes. So in very simple word, I can say that, let's say we have some data. We only divide them into two groups, or three groups, or four groups, or n groups. And when you combine all these groups, it make the entire data set. So we call such kind of measurement scale as a nominal scale. So it's a nominal scale. It's the basic, the most basic level of scale. Within the bracket, I wrote group information. So group formation. So by this I mean that this scale only divide the data into groups, into mutual exclusive groups. Mutual exclusive groups refers to when you combine them together, it becomes the same unit from which you make these groups. So for example, let's say we have number of students data from a class or from a university. So we divide them into two groups, male or female, or we divide into n groups with the year of education in which they are studying. So we could have like 10 or 12 groups. So we call this kind of measurement as nominal scale measurement. So this is the basic level of measurement. Similarly, this could be used slightly differently. And the important thing about nominal scale is that if you read the last line, that these number, when they are used only to identify the categories of the given scale, it carry no numerical significance, and there is no particular order of grouping. So this is a basic measure. This only make groups. There is no numerical values assigned to it, or if even numerical values are assigned to it. For example, if you call boys group 1 and girls group 2, these values has no numerical significance. Like you can't say that 2 is more than 1 or 1 is less than 2. These kind of things doesn't exist for numerical scale. And there is no order as well. Like male could be 1 and female could be 2, or female could be 2, male could be 1. So nothing change the order or the labeling doesn't affect anything. So this is the very fundamental scale. But normally we have more than that when we measure things. The second measurement scale is called ordinal scale. Now what is ordinal scale or ranking scale? This scale is, okay, let me go back to my slide. So with the nominal scale, I will summarize it into two words: group formation, and I would say keep in mind like male-female group formation. Now I talk about ordinal scale. In ordinal scale, we have, it has the characteristics of the nominal scale, plus there is an additional thing that when you make the groups, there is ranking involved in it as well. But the ranking do not have a constant interval. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. For example, let's say you have students, let's say 10 students. So you rank them as a excellent students, good student, fair student, or poor student. Now you also make groups. There is a group of excellent student, there is a group of good student, there is a group of fair or poor students. So you got 3 groups. Now this is also group formation, but excellent represents something. Like excellent is better than good, and good is better than fair, and fair is better than poor. So you see, now the ranking get in as well. So you got a second scale in which you have group formation and also ranking being there. So ranking plus group formation gives you another scale which we call ordinal or ranking scale. So that's the second scale, and that scale is slightly better, or you can say slightly more sophisticated skill than the nominal scale, the first one we discussed. So I would summarize ordinal scale into 2 words: group formation plus ranking, like good, better, best. And now you can see the good, better, and best also give ranking as well. It's group formation and it gives ranks as well. Then we talk about the third one. It's called interval scale. Now before going there, if you look at good and better, better is a higher category than good, and best is a higher category than better. But the interval between these is not constant. Like you can't say that the difference between good and better is same as the difference between better and best, or between best and excellent. So there is ranking, but this ranking is not with a constant interval. So for that reason, we have a third scale, which we call interval scale. So interval scale is a scale that has a constant distance between the categories. So normally we say that it has a group formation, it has a ranking, and it has a constant interval as well. So you got a more sophisticated scale, a basic scale of group formation, then you have ranks, and then you have a constant interval. Now, what is the example for that? The example for that is the temperature measurement scale, like Celsius or centigrade scale or Fahrenheit scale. You see, you measure the temperature with the centigrade. So 1 degree centigrade, and then 2 degree centigrade, and then 3 degree centigrade, and you know the difference between 1 and 2 is kind of comparable to 2 and 3, and 3 and 4, and 4 and 5. So the interval is constant here. Same hold true. But the drawback of this scale is that there is no absolute zero there. For example, if we say 0 centigrade, there is 0 centigrade obviously, but it doesn't mean, it means there is no, there is a minus scale as well. So there is no zero anywhere. So there is no absolute zero that this thing is not there. So that make it a kind of a drawback of this scale. So interval scale has some more limitation. For example, you can't say that 40 degree is twice as hot as 20 degree, or in other word, we say we cannot take the ratio of the scales. That's the limitation of it. There is no absolute zero, and then you can't take the ratio of it. The addition and subtraction in it makes sense. Like if you add 2 degree or 1 degree, make it 3 degree, that makes some sense. But if you add best or worse in the previous scale, it was not making that much sense. So these are the few limitation or advantages and disadvantages of these scales. Then we move to the final scale, which is before going there, interval scale become group formation, ranking plus a constant interval. Now we move to the final one, which is called the ratio scale. Now the ratio scale, this is a special kind of scale. This has everything. It has a group formation, it has a ranking, it has a constant interval, and it has an absolute or true zero as well. A true zero, like in interval scale, when you have a zero temperature mean that there is no warmth or absence of heat, but you still have something. It's like the scale is still going below that. But in case of ratio scale, you have an absolute zero. Now what is example of that? Examples are a lot. For example, distance, you have zero distance, so zero distance means no distance. Then you don't have a negative distance, or you have zero money, or you have zero volume. So it is a kind of like the most sophisticated scale, ratio scale. So this is the 4 scales. Going back there and showing you the summary slide now. Group formation, ranking, constant interval, and absolute zero, that make the ratio scale. So we have these 4 scale. Now any variable you are dealing in any field of research, it doesn't matter you are working in physical sciences or social sciences or library sciences or economics or management, you have variable measured in one of these scale. Variables are measured in one of these scale. So it's important to know that the variable you are using in your analysis is measured at what scale, because that gives you certain advantages and disadvantages, and obviously some scale are needed to be treated differently when they are used in the modeling. So it's important to know that what kind of variable you are using. So these 4 scales and its background is important. So moving ahead, types of data. I'm not sure if you are familiar with these 2 types of data, but normally when you are handling with data, we economists have 2 major distinction between the data. One is called primary data and the other is called secondary data. Primary data refers to that kind of data which is primary, which is collected from the field, which has not processed through statistical processes. It's the raw data. There is no statistical purification or anything being applied to it. So it's in raw form. It has not been processed. Nothing has manipulation has been done to it. So we call such kind of data primary data. Then we have secondary data. Secondary data is published data. that has been processed, that has been gone through certain statistical procedures, some improvement. So these are the two categories, primary data and secondary data. Now, when you are working as a researcher, you may be confronted with both kind of data. You may be sometime using primary data, sometime you may be using secondary data. As a researcher, when you are handling data, you need to know the source of your data, whether it's a primary data, secondary data. If it's a primary data, who did the survey, what kind of survey it was, what area was covered, and all these details need to be known. Similarly, for secondary data, you need to know what is the source of data, who published this data, how the data was collected, what are the definitions of different variables. All these informations are required when you are handling the data and when you are using it in your research. If you study some research papers, you will see any study, if they use data, they will be talking about the data. They will be mentioning the data sources and all that. So it's important to know these distinction and the difference between these two types of data. So moving ahead, now I'm going to talk about entering the data to SPSS. Yesterday we learned how to get SPSS, how to start it, what are the different windows in SPSS. So today we are going to talk about how to enter the data in it and how to do some preliminary analysis with it. So entering the data, as I said, there are two types of data, secondary data and primary data. So if you have secondary data, like mostly the data you can get from number of sources. For example, you can think of your Bureau of Statistics. I don't know the exact name of your Bureau of Statistics, but in Pakistan we call it Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, PBS. That's our organization which is collecting a lot of data. So we normally get data from there. The central bank, our central bank is called State Bank of Pakistan. I think in Nigeria it may be Reserve Bank of Nigeria or Nigeria State Bank or something like that, central bank. So that's the place where you can get the data. Then you can look for some international organization like IMF or World Bank. Their websites do provide you very rich data sets. In particularly, World Bank has a database which is called World Development Indicator, WDI. It is a very rich data set. This has a lot of information. I'm going to give you a small task during this session, and I have a link for that website as well. So I would strongly advise all of you, irrespective of at which level you are working, do visit that website and do check that data. It's very useful data. You will find your country data and you will find almost every country data. You can make comparison and you can see a lot of economic and political data on that. Okay, so that was the first secondary data. You could have also primary data, and primary data, for example, you as a student may be doing some survey, collecting the data from people, or you may have you know, some semester project, or maybe you are doing some research thesis and you did some survey. So in that case you may have a primary data. So that primary data comes in a form of a questionnaire. You may have a questionnaire that has been filled, and it has questions, so people do fill that questions, and you have that questionnaires with you in hard form, and then you can feed that data into SPSS. So it doesn't matter if your data is secondary data or it's primary data. It doesn't matter from which source your data comes. It's needed to be uploaded to SPSS software before doing any analysis. Obviously, software help you with your analysis. It's like to run some calculation on a calculator. You need to insert the digits first. For example, if I want to add to number, so I have to write that on the screen, and then only that will process. So in the same case, SPSS will need the data to be inserted to it before doing any analysis. So it's important. It's also important, this is very important point, the last one. Normally, it is not, it's not necessary that the data you get is ready for analysis. You may get a data that's not ready for analysis. If that's the case, you will need to process it. If it's ready for analysis, then you can just use it. So this is also, you should keep in mind that not all the data you get in the format would be supportive to the SPSS. Like for example, you may be getting the data in the rows classification, but the SPSS need it in columns. So then you will need to swap that rows into columns to transform it. So this is important to know, that you need to know how the SPSS read the data. Only then you can use it correctly. So let's talk about first secondary source data because it's straightforward. How to enter data to SPSS when you get it from some secondary source. Secondary source data is easy to upload in SPSS because SPSS gives you a lot of flexibility with accepting a lot of formats. Normally, when you get a published data, it's in a digital format most of the time. You get it in SPSS format, or you get in Excel sheet, or maybe text format, or DBS, DBF format, .dbf, or Stata format, or some other format, CSV format. And there are many more formats of SPSS is very good with supporting all these formats. So if you have a data in Excel sheet, SPSS can directly import it from there. So you don't have to do a lot of things. You can directly copy paste it as well from Excel. For text, for DBS, or for Stata, or for CSV, you have to import it. You have to do a few steps, but it's straightforward. The importation of secondary data to SPSS is very easy. It's a very easy, and you can do it. It is also possible. Sometimes your data may consist of more than one file. Like your data may not be in just one single file. For example, in Pakistan we have a survey about households. So they have one file with the household information, like where is the household, where is the household living, which province, what is their identity code, and some basic detail about the household. Then they have a separate file on their income, a separate file on their consumption, a separate file on their, for example, health related issues, and so many other information. So if I have to use that data, I will need to combine that data first before using it in SPSS for analysis. For example, I have in one file the household information, in another file all the household consumption information. So I need to connect these two data sets in such a way that, for example, the first household, who is number one household, his values there should be assigned from the consumption to the first household. He should get the same value which was linked to his household. Similarly, all the data needed to be connected properly. Only then you can use it. So these are very important steps, and obviously this course is not focused on that part of discussion. So I'm leaving that, but just wanting to give you a hint that sometime you may not have the ready-made use data. You will need to prepare it. Okay, then we talk about how to do it practically in SPSS step by step. So first you have to start SPSS from your start menu, open all your SPSS, and then you have to go to the data window, the main window, and then the data window, or even the variable window. You go to the file tab, and then you can go to the page and upload it. I will show you the screenshots. So when I open the SPSS, this is the screen you see. If you see the file, there are options: new, open, open database. So these are the few options. So I will go to open, and then with open I can see here data, syntax, output, script. These are the four types of file we talked about yesterday. So I'm going to open the data. Since I have a data which I want to import to SPSS, so I will go to open, and I will go to data. If I have to open a new file, I will just click a new blank sheet will create it. But since I have a data, I want to import it, so I will go to the data. When I click on data, a new window will pop up. So you can see here it's showing my desktop and a lot of folders on my desktop. So I can here navigate to the folder or the file where the file is, and I can then proceed and I can import it. I have one more screen. Okay, no, I don't have it. There are, if you see here, this lower bar, you can see here it's written SPSS statistic.sav. Here you can change the file type, and you will see all format that SPSS supports. So any supportive file, if it's available, it will be get imported. I can demonstrate it at a later stage, but for time being I will rely on the screenshots because it will be easy for me to then cover a lot of things. If I do it practically, then it will I wouldn't be able to cover much. So SPSS and all that format, and then this type of file. So once you select that file, your file will get imported. So that was the secondary source. Now we talk about primary source. As I said, secondary source is very easy, straightforward. you navigate it, and with a few clicks, your data will be in SPSS. So I will leave this one here. Now I move to the second type of data, which we called primary source. Primary source data is initial data, the raw form data, and sometimes you have to import the data from the questionnaires to SPSS. So that make it rather challenging and difficult for the students. Most of the time, they don't know how to do that. So I'm going to show you this with a small example. I took a hypothetical data in which I consider a household and his decision for transport mode choice. By mode choice, it means that let's say there is a person, he go to work. So what kind of transportation mode he use? For example, he may go by walking, he may go by car, by bus, by train, by aeroplane, by many mode of transportation. So I took a hypothetical example. I will show you that data here. So you can see here a box. The first column shows the household ID. So you can see household 101. So this is hypothetical. You can say it's a serial number. So unique values for each household. Then there is a mode choice. Mode choice shows that he is going by car. The first one is going by car to his work. The second one is going by car as well. The third one is walking to his work. The fourth one is going by bus, and so on. Then there is a monthly expenditure on transport. So you can see the car person is spending a lot. The walking person is spending the less. And the bus is a kind of a medium range, and you can see the van slightly higher than bus and or comparable to the bus. So this is a hypothetical data. Now compare this example with a case. Let's say you have a questionnaire in which there is a question that you ask the household that how you go to the office for work or to the university for studying, and you give him 4 or 5 options: car, walking, bus, and he is picking. Let's say the first one say I go by car, the second one say I walk, the third one say I go by van, and you also ask them what is your monthly expenditure on transportation, and they write the expenditure as well. So now I'm going to demonstrate. Let's say you have a questionnaire with a lot of questions, these two as a sample, and we will see that how we can use this, and we can plug in that data into SPSS for analysis. So in next few slides, I'm going to show you that. So it's relatively difficult manually. So this is important that you have to do that manually, because it's in hard form. You have it on paper, so you have to do it manually. So that make it difficult. You have to be very careful, making no mistakes in entering and all that. And there are a number of steps. So I'm going to do it by steps. First, you have to open the SPSS file, the data window, and you have to create the variables, and then you will insert the data. So I will show you how you do that. So this is my main screen again. The same eViews, SPSS main file, and here you can see there are 2 views. Yesterday I talked about it: data view and variable view. Now I click on variable view. So I can see here name, type, width, decimal. So this is the variable view. Here I can define my variable. So I'm going to show you now how I can define or create variable for the data which I want to insert myself. So variable view, and these are the variable names. So this is the sheet, the same sheet. First, this is the variable type. Here I have to tell SPSS that what kind of variable. Name is straightforward. You can just type the name. So there is no rocket science in it. You will just write name, serial number, or anything. So you can use some alphabets for it. You can't use special character for it. So you can just name without any space. You can name the variable. With type, you need to be specific. Like for example, if I want to add a numerical value, so then I have to define that this value should be numeric. And if I have to tell how many points after decimal, with decimal, with width, I need to tell how many digits. For example, there is another option which is called string. String refer to text. For example, if you recall, yesterday I showed you a sheet in which I wrote the company's name. So if I want to write some text in it, so then I need to define the type as a string. If my values are numerical, then I will give this variable as a numeric value. Then there is label. Label is like in name, you can't give full name. Like you have to write a smaller name. But with label, you can write the full name of variable with the more detail. it allows you for labeling the variable properly. In name case, you have to write the short because it's visible on the top of the column. Then it becomes difficult when you are doing analysis if you give a longer names. Then you have the values. So that's the values. If you have categorical variable or ranking variable, the ranking variable which we just saw ordinal variable, which do the group formation and the ranks. So in that case, this variable is very useful. I will show you how it works. So hold me for a while. I will show you how this works. So keep this one in mind. This is the same slide just for telling you that ordinal scale, nominal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale is important here while inserting the data. So this is the variables I created for the data. I had it. If you recall, I had three variable: household ID, their mode choice decision, and their transport expenditure. So I typed that. I typed that myself manually. So these are the variable name. That's very easy. All these variable are numeric. So the type is numeric because household ID was numbers. Mode choice was also, well, it was car, bus, and train, but I define it as a numeric. I will give you a reason why I did that. And transport expenditure, I also define it as a numeric. Here it's title, so I give full title. HID refers to household ID. Mode choice refers to transport mode choice decision, and transport expenditure refers to household monthly expenditure on transportation. And then there are values. So this is numeric. Now this is if you click on this numeric value, you will get this window. Now I hope it's visible, not very small. There are a lot of options here. Normally we stay on numeric or string. These are the two which we are used very commonly. So I will talk about this. Numeric is for numeric value, and if you have a variable which is text, then you select string. Then it will allow you to type the text for the data entry. And this is the width, like how many, for example, how many digits you want to keep limit. For example, if it's a numeric value, so it will have 8 digits and then decimal and then 2 numbers or digits after decimal. If I make this 20, so then it will allow me 20 digits and then 2 point after point 2 digits. So for string, I will make this like 20 or 30, so it will allow me to enter 30 characters. I can make it 50 or 100. It's up to you what kind of data you have. So this is the types. Then you go for this one. This is the values. So now here I did this mode choice. If you recall, mode choice was car, bus, walking, van. So these were the options. So here I define it numerically. I said that 1 represent car, 2 represent bus, 3 represent taxi, 4 represent walking, and 5 represent other. Now why I did that? This helped me a lot. This helped me in entering the data, and it also helped me later on to do analysis. I can also write car and taxi, but then I have to define this mode choice variable as a string. Then I can't use it as a numeric. Then I have to use it as a string. And then I can type when I'm entering the data, then I will type here as a car and bus and all that values. So this was the creation of variable. This is the measurement scale. So you're going to tell what kind of measure it is. For example, this one is ordinal or nominal. So this is the scale. Normally you can keep it anyone, but for the mode choice kind of variable which are categorical or which are ranked variable, you should use ordinal. This is important. You should use ordinal scale here. Otherwise you will be confused. But in general, it wouldn't make a big difference here while initially you define it. You can always change it. But this type should be defined beforehand. Otherwise, if you change it during once you enter your data and you want to change this will affect your data. Measurement scale wouldn't affect much. Okay, so this was about creating the variable. Now we going to enter the data. So once I create these 3 variables, I define their types, I label them, I gives the values to them, and I enter their measurement things. Then I can start entering the data. So now I will switch to the data view. So let me go back. Sorry. This is the variable view. You can see here that was active. Now I will activate the data view because now I want to work with the data. So I will activate the data view, and once I activate the data view, my my sheet will look like this now. Initially it was all variable, variable, variable. Now I have three variable defined. One is household ID, the other is mode choice, and the third one is transport expenditure. So now I have my sheet. This was the data. So I'm going to enter it one by one. So in household ID, for the first one, I will enter 101. For the mode choice, I will enter, for car, it was 1. So I will enter just 1. It will automatically mean car because I already defined one mean car. And for expenditure, I will just write 10,000. Similarly, for the 2, I will write 102, and then car, and then all that expenditure and everything. So I will be doing that manually. I assume that this table is your questionnaire through which you collected the data from the people. So when I do enter that data in these boxes, in these particular cell under each variable, my suggestion would be whenever you have to do it manually, do it by rows, not by columns. For example, if I have to enter that data, I will first enter 101, then the car, and then the 10,000 value. Then I will start row number 2, 102, then car, then 8,000, then row number 3, 103, walk, and 100. Never go by columns because it may you may do mistakes in it entering the data. So my advice would be do it by rows when you do the data. Okay, so that was the primary source data. So let me show you how it works. It's also important to tell you that now people do collect data through Google Docs. They design a questionnaire online. Is there any question? Okay, okay. So Google Docs gives you, Google has a service which is called Google Docs. In this, you can create your survey online. You can share a link with people, and they get a questionnaire online. They can just fill in online by clicking different options, and you get that data in Excel sheet. So you can directly copy paste from Google Docs to the that's the primary data you collected, but it's in digital format. You can paste that in SPSS directly as well, but you will need to create the variables for it. So that's another way of doing it. So once I have the data, my sheet will look like this. So this is the data now being entered, the same data being entered to it. So you can see here 101, 1, mode choice 1 represent car, and then transportation expenditure of 10,000. And you can see here, this is defined. This is the value. 1 represent car, 2 represent bus, or 3 represent taxi, 4 represent walking. So you can see 1, 4, 2. There was no taxi, so there is no 3 value. So you can see here how the data is entered. So when you want to do analysis in SPSS, do remember that your data should look like this: the title of the variable and then the values of that variable. So it's like a column format. Your data should look like that. If it's in some other format, for example, the household value, if you have a data in somewhere else, you want to bring it into SPSS, if it's not in column format, you have to convert it, or if you bring it to SPSS, you have to transform it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do proper analysis. So that was the primary data analysis importation to SPSS. So it's important to note here that mode choice variable in this example can be string or numeric. It's up to you. For letter use, it's better to keep it numeric form. As I told you already, I define this as a numeric variable, but it could be string as well. But then you have to type, for one, you have to type car. Every time there is a car, you have to type car, or you have to paste the car name, car again. Or if it's 2, then you have to type bus every time. So that make it very cumbersome, very laborious. So I would suggest use it through numeric value. Okay, so now this is a small homework. You can try it later after the session. My suggestion would be, I think most of you should have now SPSS already, the trial version. If not, you can download it from this website, and then I would suggest that you search for Word Development Indicator WDI when you place these keywords in Google, it will directly take you to the World Bank website, which is called World Development Indicator. In this website, you can check the gross domestic product, or the GDP of Nigeria, and you can get its data from year 1960 to 2019. You can directly download that. It will be in Excel format, and then you can import that data to SPSS with the years, and then you can check how it works. So my suggestion would be, try as a practice that how you can get the data from a source, and then how you can take it to SPSS, and then how you can use it. So if you do that, you will your data view will look like this. The first column will have 1960, 1961, and onward to 2018. The second value is the GDP, so that will be giving you the GDP values in US dollar, and then the variable views will be like year and GDP, both numeric value, and then you can label it yourself, years and the gross domestic product, GDP, and then here you can define them as a, I haven't defined it because I just imported it, so you can define it as a, these are both, you can define it nominal, or you can define it as a ratio scale here. Okay, so that was a small, I would say, suggestion that you can practice. Secondly, this is the link. Since I will be sharing you the slides today, so or maybe you will get the link. I will share a link from where you can download it after an hour or two. So this link will be available. You can go to this link. There is a questionnaire on this link. Download that questionnaire and try to create variables for that questionnaire, and try to insert the information on that questionnaire to SPSS, and see if you are able to create the variables associated to this questionnaire, and if you can insert the correct data into it. There are some hands on that questionnaire as well, so that would be helpful for you to do this practice. Okay, I initially wanted to give it to you and you do it online, but then I thought that not all of you may have SPSS installed, and someone may have be on cell phone or maybe on some other device, may not be possible. So then for them it will be boring to wait for you people, those who have SPSS. So that's why I prepared a link. From this you can download and you can practice it at home later on. So now we talk about descriptive analysis. So in descriptive analysis, normally when you do quantitative research, the first step is to check your data, to get the feelings of your data. So we do these all processes as we call these as a descriptive analysis. We can also do these analysis in qualitative research as well, but it's more common in quantitative research. So in quantitative research, since you have a lot of data, so it's always good to look into the data to see what kind of data you have, what's the data shows. So in this case, we try to, the objective of descriptive analysis, that we try to understand the data and we get the feelings of the data. So mostly in descriptive analysis, we do summary statistics from our data. Like, let's say I have 10 variables. So if I want to do descriptive analysis, so I will get their summary statistics. I will interpret the values. I will see what does this value mean and what does it mean for the data. So before doing any analysis with the data, it's important to understand that what kind of data I have. So normally we say that when we do descriptive analysis, we touch two aspects of the descriptive analysis. The first one is called the data associated things, which I can name as descriptive analysis. So in that we do mean, median, mode, maximum value, minimum value, standard deviation, variance, range, skewness, kurtosis, quartile range, just the major ones. So these are the summary statistics that we need to calculate when we want to do some research, quantitative research in particular. We want, or we have to do descriptive analysis, and for these descriptive analysis we have to calculate these summary statistics: mean, median, mode, max, min, standard deviation, and all these. So how to do that? I will show you that in SPSS. We can do it with a single click. Now, but the question is, I need to know what is meant by mean. What does median represent? What does mode represent? What is maximum or minimum value of the data? What is standard deviation? What is variance? What is range? So for that reason, I said that everyone need to have some basic knowledge of statistics, because these are all statistical concepts. And obviously, this is more to SPSS and less to statistics. So I'm not going to spend most of the time on these concepts. Just will be telling you with a few words about each of these concepts. Mean is average. There are three types of mean, but I will just say we are talking about the basic mean, which is called arithmetic mean. Then there is median. Median means a value that divide your data into two equal parts. Mode means a value that is more frequent, that is very much happening in your data. Max mean the maximum value in your data. Min mean the minimum value in your data. Standard deviation is the measure of the spread in your data, like how diverse your data is. So standard deviation is a kind of we normally do it with variance, and then variance, if you take the square root of that, it's the standard deviation. We call it the average distance from the mean. Standard deviation very roughly mean, if I put it in very simple and non-technical word, standard deviation mean that how much a particular point in data on average is far away from its mean. Range mean the difference between the maximum and minimum value of the data. The skewness and kurtosis is refers to the shape of the data. Like if you put it in a distribution form, probability distribution form, so the skewness and kurtosis refers to if it's perfect symmetry, like left and right tail being equal and perfectly smooth symmetric, like normal curve. And if it's not normal, it could be either positive or negatively skewed. And then there is kurtosis refers to the peakness of the distribution, if it's very peak or if it's flat or if it's somewhere in between. And then quartile refers to the values that divide the data into four equal parts. The first quartile, the second quartile, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile. So this is the descriptive analysis. So then we have graphical analysis. This is the second aspect of descriptive analysis. We do some graphs for our data to tell about our data. So when you are writing a research paper, you need to tell about your data. You need to tell the readers that what kind of data you had. So you present the descriptive analysis, and you also show some graphs about the data, so the reader understand the data, and it's a requirement for any research. If you are doing some thesis or dissertation, you will also need these types of analysis, making graphs or doing these descriptive analysis. So now the basic data analysis. So once you have your data in SPSS, as I show you how you can take your data into SPSS from primary source or from secondary source, then you can do the descriptive analysis. So the first task is to do descriptive analysis by doing the descriptive statistics or doing some graphs. So I will show you very quickly how you can do that. You need to know that SPSS offer very powerful tools for descriptive analysis, and also it's a graphical analysis there, but it's not very attractive, but still it's there. So we will talk about it. So let's discuss them separately, the graphical and descriptive analysis, very quickly. So variety of descriptives are there in SPSS. You can do frequency distribution, you can do maximum, minimum value, the mean, median, mode, the sum, error, sum of square. These are the statistics concepts. Standard deviation, variance, skewness, kurtosis, crosstabs, or all these are available. Now this is also important to note that there are more than one way of doing something in a software. It's possible that I show you a way of doing something and later on you figure out that it could have been done by some other way as well. That's quite possible. Normally I try to use the method which is easy, which is more convenient and easy to remember. But there are obviously easy and difficult ways of doing things in software in multiple ways. So it's up to you, whichever ways you use later on, but I will be just using one method through which you can do that. So descriptive analysis. For descriptive analysis, you need to go to the tab analysis of the main SPSS file. Then you go to the descriptive statistics, and then you click on the word frequency. You can see here frequency, so it's highlighted already. So if you click on that frequency, you get this new window. Now this is the same mode choice and all that data. this was the frequency table, and when the frequency table open up, this small window open up, and with this window, if I click on this statistics, then this window open. So first let's talk about this small window. In this small window, I will be able to see my variables, all the variable. In my data, there were 3 variable: household, mode choice, transport. So I can see the 2 variable, and the third one is moved here. When I click on one of the variable on the left side window and I click this arrow, it will move it here. Or if I select a variable on the right side window and I click this arrow, it will move it to the left side. So any variable for which I want to calculate the statistics, I need to bring it to the variables window. So for example, I want to do it for household, so I will select household here and I will click this arrow and it will come here, just like you can see it now. And if I do it for the other 2 as well, I will select all these 2, or one by one I can bring it here. Then I will click on the button statistics. So I will see this bigger window, and here I can click the things. For example, if I want to have mean, median, mode, sum of all the variable, the standard deviation, the variance, the range, the maximum, the minimum value, or the quartiles, or the cut points, or the percentiles, all these, the skewness, the kurtosis, all these are available. You just need to click all the options which you want. You click on continue, you click on OK, and you get the results. So let me move to the now if you see this table, I don't know if it's very much readable, but you can see here this is the household column, then you can see the transportation mode choice column, then the household monthly expenditure column, and you can see the mean. So the mean of household was 104. This value doesn't make any sense because it was an identity. Then the mode choice, so it take the average of that, the mean is average. Then you can see the household, so it added all the incomes and divided it by the number of values we enter, and it took its average. Similarly, you can see the median, the mode, standard deviation, variance, skewness, kurtosis, and all that. So all these are available. You can also see the percentile, like 10 cutoff points, like it divides the data into 10 equal parts. So all this kind of description is being there. Now this is important, this point written here: job of researcher starts afterward to know what these numbers show. Now it's very easy to plug in the data and get these tables. We get some more tables as well, but the problem is to know what these numbers shows. Personally, what I saw with the students, the bigger problem is they do run these regressions, they do run these descriptives, but they don't know what does it mean. So that's why I will come back to my main point, which I'm emphasizing again and again. Some basic knowledge of statistics is important to understand these numbers. So as a researcher, as a writer, as a worker with the softwares, you need to know when you get an output that what does this output mean. I have seen students just copy pasting these table as it is in their reports. It's of no use, because if you can't express what does this number mean, it's of no use to do these analysis. So some basic knowledge of that is important. Then we do some graphical analysis. So SPSS offers variety of graphical possibilities, among which the most important one, or which we can use, are histogram, scatter or dot plot, bar chart, pie chart, box whisker plot. This box whisker plot is also very popular among the social sciences researchers. So I will quickly show you a few of these examples, that how you can do it. For example, if you want to do a histogram in SPSS, how you can do it. You go to the graph menu on the top of the SPSS folder, the graph menu, and within graph you can go to the legacy, and if you click on that, you find a histogram option. If you click on, you can see other options as well, but for time being I will focus on histogram. With histogram, you can, if you click on histogram, this window open up, and now this is the data which I used. This was a data which I used for one of my research study. This is on road accidents happened in Islamabad. It's the capital city of Pakistan. So there were 3-year data on road accidents. So I'm just use that data for doing this slide. So in this, I took one variable out of a lot of variables. I just selected one variable, and that variable is exact time of reporting accident, like at what time the accident happened. So I just took that variable as example. I want to create a histogram in SPSS for that. So I select this variable, I click OK, When I click OK, this was my variable. And if I want to add some more, I can do these titles. If I click on this title, I can give the name road accident in Islamabad, subtitle exact time of accidents, and then I can write a footnote with it, time for road accident in Islamabad during 2008 and 10. This is one of our paper which was published in 2000, I think 13. This is the data of that paper. Uh, so uh, once you do these settings, then these were the data I enter, and then you press continue, you come back to this window, and I press OK, and then you move to this. This is histogram. So this histogram is now created. So this is showing me the number of, for example, at around 10 o'clock. So this is the bar for that. Somewhere by 7 or 8 accident on average was happening. The mean and standard deviation are also shown for it. So this is the creation of histogram in SPSS. Similarly, you can create so many more graphs. One more thing which you need to know: if you double click in the chart area, the chart editor window open up in SPSS, and with that you can edit your graph. For example, this is the chart editor now open. When you get this result, this will be an output window. Remember, SPSS has two files open. When you open SPSS, there are two files. So if you get the histogram, it will be in your output window. So if you double click on that histogram, you will be getting this editor window open, and from here you can do some changes with this graph, and you can adjust it for yourself. For example, change the scale on X or Y. Sometimes we need to flip the scale for some graphs, so you can do that here. You can add these lines, reference grade line, vertical or horizontal. You can add that, and you can do pretty much more things. For example, if you have output in the table format on output window, you can double click on the table, and then you can increase the length or the width of the table, or you can change the format of the data. You can play around with setting the tables if you want in SPSS very easily. So then the pie chart can also be created. This is the pie chart option, graph, legacy, and pie chart. So you can summarize for group, summaries for separate variable. These are various options. You need to play around with it, and you need to see what kind of option you need depending upon your analysis. So for example, here I selected a variable road types, like what types of roads were there. Like when accident happen, it can happen on motorway, it can happen on highway, it can happen on a service road, or it can happen on some other place. So what type of roads were involved in road accident? So I selected that, and if I press OK, so it show me. It's very noisy. Okay, I will take a break. Hello. Okay. Hello. Everyone is here? Okay, perfect. Okay, okay. I took. Okay, I I okay. I will do that. Yes, I will do it, because now I can see only my screen. I will do it later on once we are done with the presentation. Then I will do it. I will share the links. Today I will stay until everyone is satisfied. No problem. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So this is the road types. So if I select the road types, and you can see the pie chart is created. I could have also selected the titles. So I could have entered more information than it would have been visible here. But I just prefer to create a simple one. So you can see here that the service road is how much percentage. You can do some adjustment, and then you can see the values written on top of each slice of this pie. So this was pie chart. Similarly, you can create bar chart. I will just quickly go through it because I have a lot of slides. So this is the bar chart that's showing the police stations, different police stations where the accidents were reporting, the numbers of accident being reported in to different police stations. Then we can think of a cluster bar chart when you compare more than one slide. So this is the mean distance to the accidents, year of accidents, and number of fatalities in accidents. So it's like comparing three bars together, and this is the legends for it. Similarly, you can think of a simple scatter plot. Sometimes you need to draw a simple scatter plot like XY plane with dots, something like this. That could be also plotted. You can also again play with entering the horizontal and the vertical reference line in it. Then there is a box whisker plot. Box whisker plot is very interesting. This look like this the top one. If you can see it on the top of this ray, this this graph present this is also called 5-number summary graph, because this initial vertical line is representing the minimum value in your data, and this right hand side vertical line is showing the maximum value in your data. Then the box, the first part of the box, the first line of the box shows the quartile 1, like when you have the data, and this Q1 divide this data into the 25%, and then this Q3 shows the remaining 25%, the top 25% and the bottom 25%, and this X shows the median value, the value which divide your data into two equal parts. So this box Wixer plot can also be created in SPSS, and I've seen a lot of social sciences research that do create these variables, these graphs. So it can be done in SPSS as well. Personally, I have never used it, so I wouldn't be in a position to show you the graph, but you can do it from here. This box plot is same as box Wixer plot. You can do it with simple or with cluster. It do create that plot if you select the appropriate option. Since I haven't used it, so I will skip the detail of it, that how it look like. Now let's talk about modeling in the data. So once you have your data in SPSS, once you did some preliminary analysis like the descriptives, statistics, the graphical analysis, then the next step is modeling the data. Like model the data and get something useful out of the data, because once you have the data, summary statistics just describe you the data. For example, from the summary I will know that the average of income is that much, or the average age is that much, or that much population of the particular area, but no more detail about it. In modeling, we learn more than that. So I don't know if I can continue for longer, because I can talk a lot on this topic, but I think I will cover this slide, and then I will ask the participant if they have the absorption capacity and time, then maybe we can proceed further, or otherwise I will stop here. So once you have your data, the next step is building the theory. So if I say building the theory come first, it wouldn't be wrong. When we want to do some data analysis, our first step is to build a theory. So theory is built by identifying variables. You need to identify two types of variable. One variable which we call the dependent variable, and then a set of variables which we call independent variable. And we then develop a model based on these variables. For example, if you see this box, here I have written y is function of x1, x2, and xk. So these are the three variables. So this y could be anything. This y is a variable which is function of these three variables. So y is affecting by x1, is affected by x2, is affected by xk. So this is a theory building. Before going for modeling, estimating a model, you need to build a theory. So that's the theory building, that you identify which is the variable of interest, which is the dependent variable, which are the independent variable. In next step, you make a mathematical model out of these variables. Like for example, if you look at it here, we call this model in economics, we call it mathematical model or econometric model. So in this model, you can see that there is a functional form of it. Like y is equal to, now I have written it in a proper mathematical form. So we call it, for that reason, we call it mathematical model. So mathematical model now gives weight to each variable. For example, x2 is linked with y with a parameter beta 2. x3 is linked with y through a parameter beta 3, and so on. And then there is ui, another term which we call error term. I will shortly explain that what does it mean. So once you have theory, then you build a model for testing that theory. So we create a mathematical model, then we get data. So data could come from external source, from internal source, could be primary data, could be secondary data. So once the data is there, then we go for estimating this model. So estimation by itself is a very big area. A very big area, a lot of detail about it. We are in no position to even touch it at this point. Then once you estimate your model, then you test your model, that whether the model you estimated, is it representing the real world, or is it just by chance that I found some relationship between these variables. So that's important to test it through statistical tools. I don't know if someone of you have studied the statistics course, so you would have come across the word T statistics or F statistics. So we use these tests to test our hypothesis and to make a decision that whether our model is good or if our model is not good. And once we test our models, then we finally make a decision, and we then start reporting our data and we start running. Now, it is important for you to know that SPSS help us only in one part of it. In this entire process, SPSS help us in only one thing, and that's the estimation, or you can say estimation and testing. These two parts are, or these are the two blocks where SPSS help us. So this is the whole process of data modeling, or model formulation, model estimation, model testing, and finding conclusion and making forecasting. So if I explain it a bit more, so I think I have a very good example on the next slide. So let me quickly go to that example. I will skip a few slides. I'm going to give you one example from Baker was a Nobel Prize winner in economics. He created a model which he called economic model of crime. According to him, he said that we can make a model for crimes. Like we can see that why do people do crime, and based on that he derived a model which he called a model of crime. So in this model, what he says that he can make a dependent variable which is a crime, and then a number of factors x1, x2, x3, or number of variable that's affecting the crime of a person who do crime. And then this is y is hours spent in criminal activity, x1 is wage of crime activity, x2 is wage for legal employment, other income, probability of getting caught. So these are number of things, number of variables that is affecting y. Like if someone want to do crimes, they have to think about if he go for legal work, so what is the return for it? If he can earn from somewhere else, what is the probability of being caught? Can police get me? And if they get me, is there any chance for being punished for it? And there are so many factors that can affect the crime. So now this is a model. So this is the first step. This is the theory building. So Baker built this model, right? So that's the first step. In next step, they make a mathematical model out of it. So it can be written in equational form, and then getting the data on each of these variables, and then using these variables to estimate this model and get the numerical values for it. And then based on these numerical values, he could explain that, for example, if the wage change by, let's say, $10 per hour, how much it will be affecting the crimes, or if the probability of being convicted will increase, the crime rate will reduce by that much. Now this is beyond summary statistics information. Imagine if you have just data on these variable. With summary statistics, you will know that, okay, what is the mean crimes in a particular area, what is the age of average age of the criminal, what is the probability of being caught. So this is very fundamental. uh, of course this is useful information, but not that useful. Imagine if you link all these variables and you create a theory out of it, and then you are in a position to explain the relation among these variables. So that's more useful thing, and that could be done through modeling, to regression analysis. You can do all these things. So I would stop here because it's already too much to absorb in case you don't have a background, and if you have a background then it's not too much that I have discussed. So I will stop here. I will come back to this last slide, and I will now move to the chat window, and we'll start listening from the people. What does they say? Okay, so Omo, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Sabai. Really, it has been a marathon. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. It has been a comprehensive
Welcome.
lecture all the way. Thank you very much, and thank you our dearest participants. So I think at this stage we would like to ask questions, give room for participants who have questions to ask. For now, apart from the question of posting the link on the chat box so that they can easily copy it,
Okay.
there is no question on the chat box for now. So if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and
Yeah,
just ask.
I'm here.
Professor
No
directly,
worries. If
so we can
you can
answer
stay,
you.
I can stay. No problem.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. So while we wait for Professor to copy the link on the chat box, you can ask your question if you have any question regarding statistical analysis and using of SPSS.
Yes.
I have a question. Please, my question is on the fact that we need the recording of this video, this lecture, not only the slides, because you have said a lot that are not written down. So we need the recording to enable us grasp it more and do our assignments better.
Okay.
It's not a question, it's just an information anyway.
The video is recorded. Yesterday I recorded the session. Unfortunately, I was not that much experience of recording sessions, so I was able to record my voice, but I was unable to record the voice from, for example, Omo or from your sides. But my all voices and all the discussion is recorded. So I made a video of it and I was uploading it on YouTube, but it's taking time. So I will share the link with Omo and he will share it with you. For both the days, videos will be available on YouTube. You can download it and you can watch it live. And I would also request you to subscribe our YouTube channel. And there are a lot of material, basic and advanced, and also a lot of statistics related things. So you can also learn from there as well. And also I will share today the PDF files of my PPT. So you will be getting that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. Really appreciate you. So for all the participants, we already have your email address. So we'll forward you the link to the link to the videos as well as the PPT. You have them in your email. And just a quick information before any other person asks the question. At the end of today, we shall be sending to your respective emails the link to the feedback form. Though I have placed it on the chat, but you can still get it on your email. So we expect every participant to complete the survey before the end of the weekend, so that by Monday you can start getting your certificate. So we appreciate you. And like I did mention at the beginning, this training is organized by Samuel Adegboyega University Library. Samuel Adegboyega University is a faith-based university owned by the Apostolic Church, Lona Territory, Nigeria, and it is located in Ogwa community in Edo State, Nigeria. So we want to give room to any other participant that have questions. So if you have any question relating to statistical analysis or use of SPSS, you can ask Professor Saba. He's still here with us.
I just share my YouTube link, so you can check it there. I will be uploading the video of today and yesterday, both video. It will be available. So you can subscribe for updates. And there will be a separate folder playlist on that YouTube channel. which will be with the same title as the workshop title. So if you go there, these 2 videos will be available there, and then you can download it from there. It's still not uploaded, so it's going to take time because it's more than 1 hour. So that's why it's taking time. I put it on upload before I started my lecture, but it's still taking time. So I will share the full, but you will find it here because I wouldn't be able to share the link once this session is closed.
Okay. So thank you very much. So let me quickly reiterate. Okay, Dr. Bomo wants to start.
Yes. My question is on the assignment or the practice. Either from the assignment you've given to us to go to World Bank to download the details from, maybe data from World Bank, as well as the data from the questionnaire. After our practice, will there be a means to submit to you so that you can evaluate
it's like I give you the screenshot on the slide, so you can compare it with that and you will know that you did it correctly or not.
Yeah.
There is a screenshot of the data, how your data will look like once you import it to the SPSS. So you can judge yourself by yourself, like comparing with that. If it look like that, so that's mean you did it correctly. Okay, someone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Bomo. Dr. Bomo is immediate past head of department of Library and Information Science, Delta State University, Abraka. So
there is very interesting question here in comment.
Sabai?
Someone asked what is the difference between or similarities between SPSS and EViews. SPSS and EViews both are statistical packages. Both are used for quantitative analysis. Personally, I would say you can do the basic analysis with both softwares. But when it comes to advantages and disadvantages, both the software has some good things, some bad things. For example, with SPSS, you can do more data related things like data management, data organizing. That thing could be done more conveniently in SPSS compared to EViews. On the other hand, EViews is more powerful with data analysis related to time series data. If you have data which you have to model, which is time series in nature, like for example, if you are working in finance field or stock market or currency or exchange rate or GDP or economics related data that's measured across time, like the small task I give you, that to download it from the website and then upload it on this kind of data is called time series data. So for these data, EViews is the ideal software. SPSS cannot handle it properly. But on the other hand, if you have a cross-sectional data, for example, like you do survey by yourself, like I give you the example of inserting it manually, for such kind of analysis, then SPSS is better. So basic analysis could be done in any of these, but then if you go to advanced level, then one software is obviously good for one thing, other is good for other thing. It's like they are targeting particular areas for their usage. Okay, some more question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, sir. Please, can we have one example on modeling data, like having a data or modeling data, and then I want you to give us an assignment on it so that you'll be able to put it into practice and key into the procedure.
You want me to give you some data for analysis?
No, I want you to teach us, like you have, just as you did for the bar charts, pie charts, the other ones. If you can have good example of modeling data, on data that will enable us use the equation, we key it into it and we work it to the end. Then you now give us an assignment so that you'll be able to compare whatever answers we have with what you have done.
I will figure it out. I don't know if I can if I get correctly what I should say, if I understand correctly what you said, but I will try to figure out some data for you, and if you want to practice it, I will share something. I will share it with Truomo. Sir.
No, I want you to. Hello, sir. I want you to teach. I want you to have a data. Just like you have data on that
okay, so you want the data.
that and be able
Okay,
to key it
okay,
into that equation and
okay,
together
okay, okay.
and show us the working to the
Okay,
end
okay, okay,
so that
okay.
we'll
I'm
be able to
sorry. I'm
apply
sorry. Now
this
I
knowledge
understand.
to our
Okay,
own
okay.
research.
You want me to do a
That's what
full
I'm
exercise like how you
okay.
do it step by step. Actually, I
Yes,
understand.
yes,
I
yes,
understand. I understand. Okay.
yes, we'll be
What we
interested,
can do
sir.
it that in future maybe
Thank
we
you, sir.
can arrange an advanced level work. This was a very beginning or the basic level thing. So at advanced level maybe we can do something to take some data and then apply it. But I would here highlight that modeling the data involve a lot of things like for example estimation is a one single word which says that okay you will estimate a model, but when you comes to estimating actually the things there are a lot of issues with it. First of all it depends on what kind of variables you are using. Then there are different types of techniques. You have to pick a proper techniques, and then once you do every type of technique have some assumptions like some condition need to be met before applying that technique, and then if you apply it then there are some issues if that condition are not met, your results are affected by that conditions. So then you need to work out to remove that before trusting your result. So it's not that simple that we can do it in one or two settings. If I tell you in my current semester I taught one course which was consist of 30 lectures 29 lectures of 75 minutes each, 30 lecture of 75 minutes each, just to teach them the estimating the basic level models. So you can imagine how many things are involved in it. But if you are interested, I will paste here again. This is our YouTube. There is a one folder playlist in it which is called Fundamental of Econometrics. There are 29 lectures on that. So if you start that one by one, there are complete analysis in it. Like I started from the very basic, very beginning, and then using the data in it, and then modeling the data, estimating it, and then what does the result shows, the interpretation of it, all that are there. So if you want to spend some time on it, you can learn from it. Yeah, welcome, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sabai. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is one more
Okay,
question.
any question? Any further question?
One participant is asking about Grapid Prism version 8.02, and he asked me if there is any good reason for switching to SPSS compared to some other software. My advice would be no. SPSS is a tool that help you. So if you have some other tool available that can give you the same thing which you can do it through SPSS, it's okay. SPSS is useful when you want to do some statistical analysis. If you can do it that through some other software, it's also okay. For example, for myself, if I do basic analysis, I use SPSS. But if I want to go beyond basic analysis, then I use Stata or eViews. To my student, I taught eViews because the course I was teaching that was would have been better covered through eViews. So I taught them eViews rather than Stata or SPSS. So it's up to you. If you have more option available and you have command on that, it's better to use that than switching to a totally new software. Okay, the another question, 27 version SPSS and difference between 23rd. Personally, I myself am using 25 version and I'm using SPSS since 2000, I think 2006. Since 2006, I am using it almost regularly. So it's like 14 years, and during that time, I don't know if it was version 10 or 12, and now it's 26 or something. There is not major changes. The only change is what happens with the new version, that they introduce new modeling capabilities in SPSS. They add new modeling techniques. When I was using it in 2006 or 7, there were not so many modeling capabilities which I can see now in the new versions. So in my belief, if you have version 23 or 27 or even 20, it wouldn't make a big difference. just try to get one and try to get hand-on experience on it and try to get expertise of using it. Okay, welcome.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. So I was trying to fix the form. So please, the survey form has been corrected, so you can actually enter your email address now. For those of you who filled the form before, I don't know how you entered it, but your email address has to be there because that's how we are going to get back to you. So please, if you have filled the form, I don't know, maybe you have to get back to me personally so we can correct your own. But for those who haven't filled it, you can fill the form now. So if we have further questions, we can ask Professor Sabai. Professor Sabai is still here with us and he's ready to answer our questions. So if you have questions, you can ask Professor Sabai. Okay, Mr. Agbeja. Mr. Agbeja.
Thank you so much, Professor Haba. My question is that everything that we can do on SPSS, is it possible to also do on Jupyter Notebook using
Yes.
Python?
Yes. But the disadvantage with Python is, well, there are a lot of advantages of using Python, but the major disadvantage is it's not for someone who have no knowledge of programming. Like for Python, you need programming skills. For example, a layman or someone who is not much to computer field, for them it's difficult to use Python. But in general, if you can learn Python, I would strongly recommend you to learn because it's very useful. If you go ahead in data sciences in particularly, it will be of very much use. I myself want to learn it. I don't have expertise in Python. I'm planning to have a course on it, Python. Currently, I'm doing some courses, and once I'm done with that, it's on my list. It's on my to-do list to learn Python language. So if you are doing it, I would strongly advise you to do. And in that case, I would suggest do search for software which is called R, software R, English alphabet R. So this software is this software would be more powerful and compared to SPSS, you can do a lot of statistical analysis, but it also need programming skills. I think its language is Python, so it will be very helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Sabai. So any further question, because we are rounding up in the absence of any question, we will have to round up. So like the convener did announce to us at the beginning of this session yesterday, this is the first of the series of webinars and trainings we'll be having in Samuel Adegboyega University. And thankfully to Professor Sabai, he has agreed to also be with us anytime in September for a more advanced section with the use of SPSS. Like we announced, this is a beginner session, so it's important we cover the foundation before we can go into the nitty-gritty of use of SPSS for statistical analysis. So if we have any question or comment, you can send your questions or comments directly to the email address where you registered or to me. My phone on the screen. So in the absence of that, I think we are good to go for today. So thank you very much. Before we go, I will invite the convener, Dr. Ajala, to give his remarks before we go. On mute, are you on?
Well,
So I'm not sure Dr. Jala is able to speak right now, but Dr. Jala, being the convener, appreciates all participants for being here, and most especially we also appreciate our facilitators who has dedicated his time and has given us so much. We really appreciate you, Dr. Sabai, and we appreciate all the facilitators. On behalf of the convener, my name is Omoro John Okonrai, the program coordinator. We appreciate you all. So you'll be getting more information from us, and Information about upcoming trainings will also be sent to your respective mails for those of you who did register. But if you know you did not register and somehow you connected to me on WhatsApp, you have to email to me. That way we can add your email address to database. So on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you,
God
everyone.
bless you.